Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Ministers, Ministers, Assistant Ministers, Honorable Leader of Opposition, Members of Parliament. Nisambula Vinaka.
Greetings to
Mr.
you all.
Speaker, I rise to provide an update on the Pacific CEDAW technical cooperation that was hosted in Fiji earlier this month. At the Pacific Island Pacific Islands Women Leaders Meeting held in Suva in 2023, Fiji government had requested that the CEDAW committee conduct its constructive dialogue in the Pacific. Our proposal received endorsement from the Pacific Island Forum leaders and led to the convening of the Pacific CEDAW Technical Cooperation Session in Suva from April 7 to 11th, the first time for the CEDAW committee to conduct a country constructive dialogue away from the UN venue in Geneva. In fact, Mr. Speaker, taking the work of the CEDAW committee away from Geneva and to the very people it is meant to serve has been the subject of much discussion at the international fora for many years and only became a reality in the Pacific region. The Pacific CEDAW Technical Cooperation Session convened representatives from Fiji Islands, Cook Islands, Federated States of Micronesia, Kiribati, Nauru, Papua New Guinea, Republic of Marshall Islands, Samoa, Solomon Islands, Tonga, Tuvalu, and Vanuatu. The Pacific CEDAW Technical Cooperation Session also provided the opportunity for governments of Fiji, Tuvalu, and Solomon Islands to undertake the constructive dialogue with the CEDAW Committee in Suva, making it a historic first for the Pacific. Mr. Speaker, Fiji ratified the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination, or CEDAW, in 1995. The Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination is an international legal instrument that requires countries to eliminate discrimination against women and girls in all areas and promotes women and girls' equal rights. As an accountability mechanism, the recommendations of the CEDAW Committee have guided our national agenda for gender equality over the years. In December 2024, Fiji submitted its sixth state report under CEDAW using the simplified reporting procedure with Cabinet's endorsement. This process streamlined our engagement with the CEDAW Committee by directly responding to the list of issues prior to reporting received in November 2022. Our report reflects an inclusive approach incorporating insights from ministries and statutory bodies across sectors. Parallel to our official reporting, civil society organizations contributed independent shadow reports, offering alternative perspectives and highlighting challenges. Both the state and shadow report remain publicly available on the UN website. Mr. Speaker, Fiji held its dialogue on April 11th, engaging directly with a committee of 18 experts to assess compliance and challenges and identify areas for progress. Our government has worked to integrate CEDAW's principle across all sectors, reinforcing that gender equality is not the sole responsibility of the Ministry of Women, but a national priority. We worked across government ministries to collect valuable data, insights, and policy actions to support our dialogue. There was a lot to share, Mr. Speaker, from across the ministries, various policies to empower women implemented across the government in the last 2 years, including the Gender Transformative Institutional Capacity Development Program 2025 to 2030, a whole-of-government transformative approach to gender mainstreaming, an expansion of pilot that started in 2020. There are 53 programs currently running across ministries and departments, and Ministry of Agriculture is a great leader in this regard and has gender budgeting incorporated in most of its programs and projects. With its gender in agriculture policy, there has been increased focus on providing equality of funding opportunities, inputs, tools to women. The number of women assisted increased by 28%, which equated to 39% of the total beneficiaries. The ministry also has a database and dashboard for the gender mainstreaming projects. There has been progress made in Fiji Police Force women's leadership as well as in defense. Under Minister for Health and Medical Services leadership, Fiji's first maternal and child health policy was endorsed in February 2025, aiming to deliver comprehensive services for mothers and children from conception to the child's 5th year. In 2024, the Ministry of Health and Medical Services initiated standard operating procedures for cervical cancer, with the finalization of cervical cancer policy and plan for Fiji. In education, recent assessments indicate Fiji's net enrollment rate in primary education is almost 100%. Net enrollment rate in secondary, 85%, is just under the NDP target of 86%. Adolescent girls are more likely than boys to transition from primary to secondary schools. Among children aged 14 to 18, 91% of girls are enrolled in secondary school. As shared by Minister for Education Honorable Ranjan Roy yesterday, more women than men have been recipients of tertiary scholarships and loan schemes. Almost 55% of all those who graduate from our tertiary institutes are women, greatly improving their opportunities of employment. In June 2023, Fiji launched the National Action Plan to Prevent Violence Against All Women and Girls, 2023 to 2028. I acknowledge the Government of Australia for its technical and financial assistance in the development and implementation plan for the next 5 years until 2028. Fiji government has also dedicated budget for the implementation of the plan. We are finalizing the National Action Plan on Women's Economic Empowerment. The experts, Mr. Speaker, were particularly pleased with the work being carried out around technology-facilitated gender-based violence, which is a growing concern across the globe, and I'd like to thank Honorable Manwa Kamikamida and his hard-working team to bring us this far. While educational outreach remains a cornerstone of the prevention strategy, Fiji recently acceded to the Council of Europe Budapest Convention, the only binding international instrument against cybercrime. Through the convention, Fiji is part of the Council of Europe Cybercrime Convention Committee, AI working group, which is mandated to do a mapping study on cybercrime, e-evidence, and AI. This will build capacity and enable us to address AI-generated child abuse and exploitation materials. Mr. Speaker, Fiji has been actively involved in negotiations of the UN Convention Against Cybercrime. This was successfully negotiated and is the first multilateral anti-crime treaty in over 20 years and harmonizes child protection. UN General Assembly adopted it on Christmas Eve of 2024. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all the ministers and ministries that are actively implementing the Institutional Capacity Development Initiative, which serves to integrate the aspirations, concerns, and interests of all Fijian women into sectoral policies and programs. Our national delegation included officials from our ministry, the Office of the Solicitor General, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health and Medical Services, Ministry of Ethocare Affairs, Ministry of Employment, of Trade, of Rural and Maritime Development, Ministry of Justice, Ministry of Climate Change, Ministry of Agriculture, and Fiji Police Force. These representatives actively answered questions in great detail as we defended our report for 5 hours, responding to a wide range of questions on access to justice, climate change, education, economic empowerment, women in leadership, gender-based violence, and access to health services. The CEDAW Committee commended Fiji's transparency, integrated reporting approach, and institutional reforms. The committee acknowledged our legal advancement on violence against women, trafficking in persons, and child protection. As committee chair, Nehla Haider noted, I feel like I'm talking to a different country 10 years later. I have a feeling we are on good track, sharpening the issues, identifying the problems and the constraints, unquote. I make this statement on the back of a tragic weekend where 3 lives were lost due to domestic violence. So while there has been a lot of progress, Mr. Speaker, there's still a lot of work ahead to ensure there's dignity, equality, and equity for women and girls across the nation. Mr. Speaker, I would like to acknowledge the various agencies that worked in partnership with the Ministry of Women, Children and Social Protection to host the historic Pacific CEDAW session, the crop agencies with strong leadership from the Secretariat of the Pacific Community, Pacific Island Forum Secretariat, University of the South Pacific, the UN agencies through UN Women, UN OCHA, and UNDP, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for looking after all the guests who had come in. I'd also like to express a sincere gratitude to the Government of Australia that provided very generous funding to make the whole event possible. I also thank the European Union for the support through GIZ. By June 2025, Fiji will receive the committee's concluding observations, Mr. Speaker. We view this recommendation as constructive guidance for accelerating national progress. Apart from the 3 national constructive dialogues, there were also Talanoa sessions held during the week. Some of the key sessions revolved around the agency and voices of young women, the role of civil society organizations, and the enabling potential that our cultures hold for equality and empowerment of women. This was key opportunity for the CEDAW committee from Geneva, CEDAW committee members to hear directly from the Pacific people on gender issues in our region and some of the innovative ways the region was progressing gender equality priorities. Our ministry also hosted regional counterparts for breakfast Talanoa for sharing of work in this space across the region. Mr. Speaker, Fiji remains committed to gender equality, regional leadership, and international collaboration. We will continue strengthening institutional mechanisms, driving policy reforms, and upholding women's rights at all levels of society. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.